Today, we are going to talk about the human animal connection and how it can help deal with bullying. We'll get into it after I hit this music. Joining me this week is Jackie Ducci. She is the founder of the Human Animal Alliance. Jackie, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, before we dive into your organization that you founded, can you share with us your personal story of your journey on how you dealt with bullying and how you ended up working with animals?
Absolutely. So, my story is a little bit unique in that when I was in school, the bullying was really coming from authority figures. It was teachers, administrators that worked for the school. And sometimes I hesitate to say it was bullying exactly because I don't know that they knew that the impact they were having on me was so negative. But essentially, the environment in the school, they really overvalued extroversion. And they believed that there was this correlation between how much someone would talk and how smart they were. So for me, I was naturally a little bit more of an introverted kid, quite introverted actually. And I had some social anxiety on top of that. And so to be in this environment where they were constantly telling me, you need to talk more, you need to talk more. And that just made me more in my shell because I was like, wait a minute, you're trying to make me something that I'm not. Our grades were often based on how much we talked, so it just was not a good fit for me, and it really essentially, they were telling me that I was just not a smart person if I
Yeah.
couldn't figure this out. So, during all of that time, my animals were really just this incredible solace. I would, leave school every day and go to the barn, and the environment there was completely different. So it was interesting because there I didn't have to talk. Because obviously, with animals, the relationships are nonverbal. So to be able to connect with them in such a deep way and to ride competitively and different things, it taught me that you can have deep connections and real relationships without speaking. And so they helped me in a way that I don't think that other humans could have during that time.
Yeah, going back to your school to get more of a background,
Mm.
how long did you feel like you were bullied from, like, the teachers and the administration? Was it just, like, 1 year of school?
No,
Was it kinda throughout the whole school year?
it was a long time. So it started in the 4th grade because at
Okay.
that point, my family had moved and I entered a new school. But it went from the 4th grade until the day that I graduated high school.
Wow.
Yeah, years and years. And actually, I would say high school was worse than middle school. But just to give you an example, I mean, they would do these, reviews, parent teacher reviews and whatever.
Mhm.
And I was sitting in on one of them in the 6th grade and was told by the assistant head of school that I would never amount to anything in life if I did not learn to be more extroverted because the world belongs to extroverts was what she said. So it
Really?
was so systemic. Yeah.
Like, where's the proof of that?
100%, and I look at now obviously, this was, like, many, many years ago, but I think
Yeah,
about it now, and it's like, if you said that to a kid now, can you imagine? I mean, it boggles my mind.
especially with kids with autism. So, my oldest daughter's autistic, and she's, major introverted, but she's amazing at art.
Right.
She can do graphics, social media type stuff. I mean, she's amazing with that. And a lot of those kids who you see on YouTube are like some of them got social media influencer status. She dated a guy for a while. They met online who was autistic as well, named Andrew. And this guy has almost 1 million followers on YouTube just because of his animation stuff. And it's crazy that the school, I guess going back to I was in grade school in 1980, 1990. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure. You look quite young, so I'm not sure how old you are.
We're not that far apart in age, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here, but it just boggles my mind that that came from a teacher. Like, if you don't speak up and talk, you're not going to amount to anything because public speaking is like the biggest fear, no matter who you are. Introverted,
Well,
extroverted, you have to get in front of people. That's tough.
but you do, and it's like, it's not that I couldn't, but what I didn't understand was, like, I remember thinking to myself, "The teachers are being paid to teach, like, I wanna listen to the teacher teach, I don't really care that much what the
Exactly.
kid sitting next to me has to say, and why would they care what I have to say?" So, it was a little bit of that too, it's like, we're here to learn. I had a different learning style. I was more about,
Yeah.
like, I could write an amazing paper because 'cause I'm a deep thinker, but, like, if you ask me off the cuff to I don't know, do a group project or talk about whatever. It's like, wait a minute, I want a little time to think about this. And that's not a character flaw. You know what I mean? Like we're all just different in how we process information and communicate and whatever. And it felt like I was always being put in this box that just didn't fit.
Yeah, did the teacher ever outed you in front of the class at all?
Not explicitly. It was
Okay.
more just like it was reflected in the grades and the reviews and things like that. I can't recall a specific instance where I felt like, oh wow, they really shot me down in front of other people.
How did your parents handle the feedback from the school, and how did that carry over to when you got home from them?
Great question. So, to my mother's credit, she got me. She so many meetings with the schools, like trying to explain to them what introversion was, and the irony of like these environments saying they're all about diversity, but then yet they're like telling her child that who she is not okay. You know what I mean? So, I mean, time and time again, she would try to explain these things to them, and they just didn't get it. She always said, she's like, I feel like they're looking at me like I have three heads. It was just such a foreign concept. So, she really tried to be helpful. Unfortunately, couldn't get through to them. I do think, though, with my parents, part of the reason they supported my riding and we had so many animals was because on some level they understood, the positive impact that that was having on me. And thank God, because I
Yeah.
would not be the person that I am today without my animals, for sure.
How are your grades in school? Did you get graded fairly? Because you said you were a deep writer, so I assume you were a pretty good studier. Did you get graded fairly, or did they kinda treat you
I
a little
mean,
bit differently because
I
you
was
weren't a
like
speaker?
yeah, I was like a B plus, A minus student, pretty
Okay, really good.
consistently. So it's not like I didn't do well, but it always bothered me that it's like I could have been the straight A student if this aspect of the grading wasn't so important. And then I had this really interesting moment when I got to college. It was like my whole world opened up and I felt like I fit in and everything changed. But my first college course that I took was a philosophy class and they graded everything blind, and so it was by your student ID number, and I remember it was a class of, like, 80 kids, in that first paper, the teacher came out and he's like, "Man, these papers, they're really bad. There were only 3 people who got A's in the whole class." Well, I was one of the 3, and I just remember thinking, "This is so interesting because if things had been looked at this way, back in high school or whatever, it may have been a completely different experience for me."
Did you have a lot of friends in high school?
I did, yeah, it was interesting because this was really coming more from above than from my peers, so,
Okay,
for the most part, my relationships with other kids were fine.
but inside, you just felt like you weren't good enough
Yeah, it
just
was like I
because.
yeah, it was literally like they were telling me that I was not as intelligent as the people sitting next to me.
Yeah, and that's understandable because when you're a kid and you look up to a leader and they're saying, "Well, that's not good enough," that's nothing to your confidence.
Well, and think about that, like, when you're a kid, you just assume that adults know everything. You're like, "Well,
Exactly,
I'm
you
just
do.
a kid, like, they must be right." And so, it was crushing to constantly be told you need to be different or you're not gonna be successful. It was like, "Oh, wow, are they right about that?" And so, it definitely messed with me for a very long time.
Yeah. So, going to the animals now, I didn't grow up on a farm, I was pretty much a city kid, so we just had a cat and maybe a dog when I was a kid, and cats aren't very people friendly. That was I wanted to be around my dad, so
Okay.
I didn't see the cat. So, after school, having a stressful day, how did the animals make you feel better?
I just felt like when I would walk into the barn, I could breathe. Um, I felt accepted by animals in a way that I didn't by people. But what was also really interesting is like when you work with animals, they have this way of putting you very much in the moment, especially a horse because they're so big. And I was a small kid. So it's like you have to be very present in order to be safe, to work around them, and so it was almost a meditative thing. Like, I would be around the horses and I would forget about all of the frustration that I had from my day at school, and it was like a reset. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was amazing, and I would literally go there every single day and have that time with them.
So, when we go to county fairs, me and my family, we see some horses and they seem very scared of people, and when a horse is scared, my kids get scared. How did you build trust with a horse?
Well, first of all, I think all horses are different, right? Like there's some that are naturally skittish and some that are very
Kinda like
calm.
people. So, kinda like
Yes,
people. Yeah.
they absolutely have their own personalities, and that's very real. So when I was growing up, we had our horses at home. We had a farm. We had 6 horses at one time, two of which were mine that I showed. So I knew them very well. But I think, I started at the age of 5 taking lessons. And I think when you start that young, you don't really have the opportunity to get anxious. And then by the time you're old enough to be kind of anxious, you've been around them for so long that you're past that. So I was lucky that I started as young as I did because there was just this sort of natural attachment that happened very young and then, went from there.
Is it is it just horses that you kinda built a connection with? Was there any other animals that also helped you out?
My dogs as well. And they're very different relationships, right? Dogs are very snuggly and more affectionate, whereas horses are a little bit like cats in the sense of like they're a bit more aloof. But a horse is so intuitive. And so when they let you in, when you connect with them, build a partnership with them, it feels different in a way. It's almost more of an achievement, I guess, than bonding with a dog. So I think that each type of relationship has its own sort of benefits. But yeah, the dogs meant a lot to me too.
Yeah. When you were younger, did you do, like, the state fairs with the horses that kind of forced you to get in front of people, which stuff that you were scared to do at school?
Interesting. We didn't do the fairs, but I was always a competitive rider. So I
Okay.
was, on stage, so to speak, in front of people. And it's funny because that never bothered me. I think I was so confident in my skill and also like I wasn't speaking, right?
Yeah.
Like you're just showing what you can do. And I actually enjoyed that. I still do to this day. I love to go out and compete. So that was a confidence builder as well, because it gave me a way to get really good at something and then present that.
Jackie, what was your pivotal moment that helped you start the Human-Animal Alliance?
So I actually left a career in the recruiting world several years ago. And when I did, I knew that I wanted to do something that was more heart centered and charitable. And of course, that was going to involve animals. So I really thought about, my life experience and what the animals have done for me, and I wanted to bring that same benefit to other people. So, my organization, we're kind of like a foundation, even though we're technically a charity. So, we raise money to support other programs all over the country that foster human animal connection in many different ways. And I love this work. It makes me feel amazing to know that other people are experiencing things that are similar to what I did. So, I love it.
So, I forgot to ask you, where is your foundation located at?
We are located in Wellington, Florida. So
Okay.
I'm a Connecticut girl originally, but I moved to Florida several years ago because of the equestrian community down here. And so this is where we're based now.
So, do you get, like, buses of kids? Do you get youth groups? Like, what type of people visit your facility?
Well, again, we don't run programming, we support it.
Okay,
So we're
gotcha.
like a funder essentially to existing charities, but the programs that we support are all over the country. I mean, from Florida literally to California. We have supported animal assisted therapy programs of all different kinds. We also do a lot where we help humans and animals stay together. So it's not always about building new connections. Sometimes it's about preserving ones that exist. So after a natural disaster, let's say, we help reunite animals with their families. We did something last year with military so that they didn't have to surrender their animals when they deployed and they could be reunited after. So the projects change every year, but it's all about how can we help people feel that human animal connection?
Yeah, how do animals help build that resilience and confidence in people, especially people who are bullied, who
Hmm.
have no confidence? How does an animal teach them that?
I think it's just this unwavering support that they offer. Like, there's no judgment with an animal. And I think, like, when you're bullied, you feel isolated.
Yeah.
And, like, I can speak from my own experience. My animals made me feel like I was not alone, and that was really powerful. And, with them, I was not alone. I was supported. I was loved. It was like all these positive feelings that I wasn't getting from people in my life necessarily that I
Okay.
wanted it from. So for me, that was the biggest thing, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I know my cat judges me, though. Cats are
That's okay.
different breeds of animals, so it's interesting you said cats are kinda like horses, but I'm looking at some of my I have 2 new cats now that we adopted, but my
Yeah.
cats before that, I don't know, I don't think they liked me, I don't know. They like the kids.
Cats are a little different maybe,
Yeah.
but then I talk to plenty of people who have amazing connections with their cats, so, it can
I
come in
think
different forms.
I think cats just find their own people, like, "This is okay, you're my tribe, that's it, you don't
Mm,
like it." And I have a wiener dog named Gus, and I just learned when we got wiener dogs that they're the most unfriendliest dogs you can own because they only like you. They don't like anybody else. They only like
in
you.
interest
But there's also dogs like we used to have a dog, his name was Charlie. He was a mix, we adopted him, and, when we had Georgia was just a baby. We took Charlie to the dog park, and Charlie was so protective of
mm,
Georgia. Like, any dog would come up to Georgia in her little, stroller, he was right there. Like,
mm,
"Get away." Well, he was very concerned. So, it's interesting how, like, for me, I grew up with dogs. I don't really know much about horses, but how they can kinda they have that protection. They
mhm.
have that what's that word I'm thinking of?
Like
Instinct.
a Yeah,
That
right.
instinct to protect
Yes.
even something that's not even part of them, that human, like, "I'm gonna protect Georgia." Because I don't know who you are. It's just interesting how some animals can do that.
There's that, and I think also, like, the special attachment they form with certain people. It's kind of like people, right? When you meet another person, you, like, vibe or you don't, and I feel
Yeah,
like with animals, it's kind of the same thing. Like, you can take a horse, and they will connect so deeply with one person and not really want anything to do with the next person,
yeah,
and so I just find that fascinating. There's something energetically about, like, why we gravitate to certain beings, and it's magical, like, when that
and the horses are so big, they're intimidating to kids, and
Yeah.
then when I look at Charlie was like a big dog, and Georgia was like an infant, I was like, Charlie would go up and sniff Georgia, like, "Oh, please don't bite," but it's like, they're so gentle, it's like they have
Yeah.
that instinct, that ability to protect and caring.
It's interesting real quick, I'll tell you this, in my sport that I ride in is dressage, and there's a division of dressage, called para dressage for people that have physical disabilities, and it's amazing. I have seen some of the horses. Obviously, the horses that are used for that need to be incredibly safe and quiet, and so it's incredible. It's like they get around people who are more vulnerable, and they just sort of know how they need to be.
That's interesting
It's amazing.
because you feel like people should be able to have that capability.
Yes. Which well, some
Horses.
do more than others, but yes.
Yeah. Do you have any success stories at all that you've seen firsthand with your organization?
The moment that everything really clicked for me, this was probably about 6 months into doing this work. I always believed in it, I knew we were doing a good thing, but there was a testimonial letter that we received from a mom, and her daughter had been participating in one of the equine assisted therapy programs that we had funded. And she said, my daughter has been through traditional therapy like so many times. We've tried all these things, and like she just wasn't making progress. And they found this equine assisted program, and within 6 months she's like, my kid is like a different child. It took that environment to get through to her. And I literally, even when I tell the story, I get chills because that's real. For someone to have suffered trauma and abuse and all these horrible things, and then to get in the presence of horses and they were the beings that were able to help her move forward, like that is so profound.
Is there, like, any science behind this stuff? Like, have you researched or looked into it? Like, how does this happen? How do we take kids who are, who have these emotional disabilities or even autistic kids, and how can an animal, you know, change their behavior?
I'll be
To me, it's
honest with you,
interesting.
I think that it's something that's vastly understudied right now.
Okay.
It's something that I would love to see studied more. I mean, there are stats out there. Like they say that animal assisted programs have been shown to reduce stress and anxiety by 69 or 70%. So there's some
Yeah.
broad figures like that. But what I find fascinating though is just like the talking to people who have experienced it, because everybody's a little bit
Yeah.
different. Like for me, it was feeling more mindful and feeling accepted, and somebody else might describe it a little bit differently. So, It's all about what
Yeah.
the individual takes.
Yeah. 'Cause well, I know hospitals use therapy dogs and therapy animals because I used to work in a hospital for a long time, and we would see them. And you always gotta pet them because 'cause they're, like, the best animals ever.
Yeah. Well, and also you think about that, and I mean, it's like in any environment, you bring a dog in, it's sort of impossible not to smile. Like,
Yeah.
when you're in a hospital or something, I would want a dog next to me. There's something about them that just sort of softens the environment and actually makes connection with other people easier as well. Like, I know people that they do therapy work with their own dogs, and they say it's amazing because the patients in the hospitals connect with the dog, but it also opens up so much great communication between the dog handler and the patient. So, yeah, they're just this incredible conduit for, like, all sorts of amazing things.
Yeah, I think there needs to be, like, a study, like, maybe that's something you can work on next. Get some
Yeah,
grant
right?
money and study this human because I think that could I have a daughter who is autistic, and we never even thought about maybe get her around some animals to help, crack her shell, whatever, or get her to be more extroverted, which what some
Mm.
people think you should be. But that's such a great idea. I never would have thought of it because we have animals at home, but they you get used to them. Sometimes the kids just forget about them. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
unless they come to you. But
Yeah, and there's stats out there that are more like physical health benefits. They lower blood pressure and reduce cortisol levels, things like that. But the emotional piece of it is what really interests me. How do they change us for the better, like emotionally?
yeah, is there any type of child out there that would probably benefit the most from animal therapy? Like autistic kids, what else is out there? I mean, there's a lot of different social emotional disabilities out there for children. Is there anything like a parent listening should be like, "Oh, maybe my kid should try this."
I mean, I think it's such a blanket thing, like, any kid can
Any
benefit.
kid.
One thing that's interesting too, we supported a couple programs last year that were a little bit academic in nature, like, for kids that are struggling with reading, for example. If they read to a dog as opposed to a human, it's incredible how much more quickly they make progress, and again, I think it's that whole non-judgmental aspect of animals. It's like, "Oh, if I mess up a word or if I say something wrong, that dog isn't gonna judge me. I'll just fix it and move forward." Whereas a
That's a
human.
great idea. That
Yeah.
is a great I'm gonna have my kids do that. Read to
Yeah.
Gus.
It's really cool, and I would imagine that it works the same for math or whatever else. If you're doing it in the presence of an animal, it's gonna be more comfortable. So I love that one, and then there are also programs out there that they call them academic enrichment, but it's really a lot of it's about life skills, teaching empathy. Animals are amazing for that, right? And I love that aspect because there would be a lot fewer bullies in this world if we were more empathetic, right?
Yeah.
So I think the earlier kids can get exposed to animals, it's a very positive thing.
Well, it teaches them responsibility as well. You have to take care of something as
Yes.
well.
Yeah. And not thinking about yourself so much, right? We all have a
Exactly.
tendency to kind of get in our own heads about so many things, but yeah, when you have to put something else first and care for it, then all of a sudden whatever is going on with you is sort of pushed to the back seat for a while. So that's powerful.
Yeah, and I might forgot to ask you this question. When did you start this foundation?
It was in 2022. So we're about
Okay.
3 years old now.
Okay. And so how do you expand these programs? Like, how do you I guess, what are you looking for to expand these programs to get into other organizations?
Yeah, I mean, our biggest need, of course, is always for additional funding. I mean, I fund the organization personally. I cover all of the overhead, so any of the donations that we receive from the public go directly to grants to other charities. So I think that's one thing that makes us really special and unique. And when people donate, they know every dollar is actually doing something. So yeah, the more we raise in a year, the more we can give back out and fund these programs.
Is there like a specific charity that you work with the most to help bring these animals to kids?
Not really. We try to spread it around a little bit. There is one that's local to us here in Florida that I love. We're about to support them for the third year in a row. They're the only one we've done 3 years in a row. It's called Tomorrow's Rainbow, and they work specifically with kids who are bereaved. So they've lost a family member, a close friend, whatever the case may be. And what makes them so unique is that their ranch, their farm, it's only miniature horses that they have there. So these kids come in and they're sort of on the same level physically. So they can like lead around these tiny little ponies, which is really cool. It's like one of my favorite places to visit because the environment's amazing.
So you don't necessarily need a ranch to have your events or have your, um, I guess, experiences for these kids.
No. And I think I would encourage people to just look at resources in their own areas. I mean, these sorts of charities exist everywhere. You just have to look for them. And I mean, I believe horses are special and they are amazing at doing this work, but dogs can be as well. So any animal related program is better than none.
Yeah. So is your organization like a nationwide thing? Are you guys kind of still in like by the Florida side of the United States, like the East Coast?
Yeah, I mean, our staff is based on the East Coast, but the
Okay.
programs that we've supported are literally everywhere. We just did our first grant in California several months ago, which was really neat. We've done stuff in New England, the Midwest, obviously Florida. So it's everywhere.
So leading up towards the end here, how do people get a hold of you so they can get one of these events at their organization?
So our website is haa.org, and they can also find me on LinkedIn, Jackie Ducci, Ducci.
Perfect. Jackie, do you have any other last thoughts you want to mention before we take off? I think you have a wonderful program.
Thank you. Yeah, I would just say, our world is becoming so disconnected in general. And I don't know if that's attributed to technology, social media, whatever. But I think that we need more genuine, authentic connection. And I think
Yeah.
animals are an amazing way to experience that. And so I would just encourage everyone out there, if they don't already have a special animal in their life.
I think you hit the nail on the head. We are disconnected
Yeah,
as a society. We're always on, you know, our tablets, video games, whatever. We're not out there experiencing that, that physical touch. And an animal is perfect because you can build a relationship with an animal. You gotta build trust with them. Like for horses, I've seen a lot of skittish horses around. Like, oh, how do you build trust with a horse? But it takes time and patience, like any other relationship that kids gonna have to learn when they get older. They can start learning how to have relationships with the animal first, because no matter what you get, you still got to build that trust with that animal.
that's such a good point too, because the things that you learn about relationships with an animal are totally relatable to like relating to humans.
Okay, Jackie, I know the Human Animal Alliance helps fund support with nonprofits. If the nonprofits would like to contact you, how can they do that?
Sure. So the best thing for them to do is go to our website. It's h-aa.org. And there is a tab there that says grants. And our grant application is right there. So best way to start is fill out an application and then we'll be in touch to learn more about their programming. And I just want to be super clear. We fund nonprofits only. We do not fund individuals.
Gotcha. Jackie, is there any other ways people can follow you or find you?
I mean, we do have Instagram. I think it's human_animal_alliance. You'll see the green logo. So you can find us there. We're also on Facebook. So all the traditional social channels. And then my personal accounts, I'm just at Jackie Ducci.
Perfect. And for those listening, you can find her information in the description of the show. And as always, if you watch on YouTube, you saw it go across your screen. Jackie, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you so much. Great conversation.
And for myself, you can always find us at our very own website, which is www.breakingbullying.com. You can also reach out to us at our email address. If you have a story of your own bullying to share, or for whatever reason you want to get a hold of us, our email address is breakbullyinghere@gmail.com. If you're a victim of bullying and you don't know where to turn, there is online resources to help you. The first is the government's very own anti-bullying website, and the address is www.stopbullying.gov. If you have had thoughts of suicide or of self-harm, we implore you to stop. Reach out to the National Suicide Hotline. That number is very simple. It's 988. I'm Tim Flynn, and thank you for listening, and we will be back next week to continue the conversation to break the silence on bullying.